Welcome to Different Beat, the only show on YouTube where a guy and former guy get together and talk to you about everything you love and hate about video games. I'm Tim.
And I'm Elizabeth.
Alright, so today we're going to be talking about Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. And I'm sort of torn on who should start this one. I really think...
Well, this one probably is not going to showcase what our show is really about quite as well as the next one you'll see next week, because a large part of our shtick, which you'll see going forward, is the two of us actually almost disagree on everything.
Almost.
We may be we've been best friends growing up. We've done a lot together. We've raised like he has his own family and I have my family. So our kids are like cousins, and so we've always been close. However, we've always been close despite the fact that if we talk, we almost immediately break out into an argument because...
Just about.
Yeah, I mean, I can count the amount of things we agree on as being good on one hand.
It's more than that.
Well, when we think really good, I mean, we have Resident Evil Remake, we have Metal Gear Solid 1, we have Final Fantasy VIII. But my point is, like, once you get beyond that, it gets shaky at best.
I guess so. But, alright, so Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. Now... I guess I'll go ahead and start on this one. So, just a little bit of a backstory here. Now, I have never been really a fan of any Lord of the Rings-based video games that have ever come out. I mean, I was pretty excited about the movies back in high school. I liked the books okay, and not really a super fan or anything. The problem was, the movies did a pretty good job of being epic, but the problem that all the past games had that really turned me off time and time again was, in my opinion, they all sucked really bad. So, how I ended up with a copy of this game in the first place was pretty much, my wife brought one home one day, she said, here we go, didn't cost us anything, you can play this now if you want. And I was like, why not, right? I had heard some things that got me kind of curious. So, I decided, what the heck, I got nothing to lose, so I was going to play the game. So, the first thing I want to start talking about is the tech of the game. Overall, pretty polished, I didn't run into any bugs at all, played very smooth. Very few frame rate drops in my mind, which was pretty impressive. I mean, I was not expecting the kind of polish that I think was delivered as far as a technical package goes. So that kind of was a pleasant surprise for me. So, I mean, what did you think there?
On that front, I wasn't shocked at all. Monolith, the dev team, have created some of the most amazing pieces of software I've ever experienced. Specifically, Condemned Criminal Origins.
Which I haven't played yet.
No, you really should.
I know, you've been trying to get me to play that forever.
I've been trying to get you to play it since we started talking again 5 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
But their tech, their team have always done really good. I mean, every once in a while maybe you could have some frame rate drops, but Condemned on 360 was an amazing running piece of software. They do so well with their, keeping frame up, keeping the pace smooth, and you never feel like you're fighting against the game. So when I went into it, the one thing I expected was for it to work because Monolith delivers. I love Monolith's team. I love the work they've done. So that was not something I ever feared going in.
You see, and I will agree, the play was very smooth. I mean, and you expected that. I didn't expect that. I was pleasantly surprised. I will say, though, in terms of the polish and the overall feel of the game, though, the one thing that I really thought it sort of, suffered with pretty bad was its, world design and development. It was just a very bland, generic open space. There wasn't a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of visual difference between any of the areas. I mean, Area 1 you're in, it's rainy, stony, gravelly. Area 2, it's more grassy and hilly. But, I mean, that was it. I mean, there was nothing visually, there was no interesting locales to explore, cool things to see. I mean, a lot of the ruins looked the same. It was a lot of repeat textures and not a whole lot of variance visually as far as the world goes. But, I mean, I'm not going to say that was a killer by any means. It was just sort of a juxtaposition, and not in such a good way when you consider the polish of, what I thought, the combat had to offer. The actual play when you're fighting, I mean, yes, after you put in enough time in the game, you started to see a lot of the kill animations over and over again. But they were still so well done, even down to little details, and I've told this to Beth 100 times over as far as examples go. But I mean, when you run your sword right through the back of an orc, you could easily just pull it back out and no one would think anything. But just the little touch of switching your grip on the hilt before pulling it, and it was so just like seamlessly there. Like it wasn't shown off, but it wasn't hidden either, and it was just like it was very impressive. Just
it was,
and that's just one example. Because that kind of detail carries over through all of the combat. You can really tell like that's where they put a lot of energy into the game. Was the combat, the brutality of the way you can mutilate the enemies, the gore. I mean, yeah, the head chop animation got kind of repetitive.
You chop off a lot of heads,
and they come off the same way every time.
Yeah.
So it's like that got a little like another head after a while. But I mean, still, all in all, the combat felt good. It was smooth. The frame rate didn't really suffer.
I don't know, the world design didn't bother me. It felt like Monolith's team was like, okay, we're going to set it in a contained area. My big issue was, I almost think this, because you move to a secondary area about halfway through the game, and I think that kind of led to an expectation, possibly, because it was like, I'm going to a brand new area, but it's pretty much the exact same area as far as design goes, elements you're seeing. So I think that may have like set up a little bit of an expectation, like, oh, am I going to get to see some snow? You know, generic video game type areas. Frost areas.
Yeah, like a desert, mountain, jungle.
It seems
biomes.
like Monolith was like, this is what we want to work with. We're going to create a small area. We're going to pack it full of stuff. And nothing's going to be superfluous. It's all going to be well maintained. We're going to have stuff constantly going on in the world. And on one hand, I totally respect it. On the other hand, by the end of the game, I didn't have any desire to go back and do the extra stuff. Because I've seen all the areas. The quests are mostly the same. I mean, I liked it for what it was. But at the same time, it's like, by the end of the game, I personally was done. I did not feel the need to prolong the experience after the cutscene that you saw at the end.
Yeah. Well, the whole ending of the game, without giving anything away story-wise, is pretty much one big cutscene, and that to me was kind of disappointing. Like, I don't know. Well, I expected. Once you get to the end of the game, you pretty much experienced everything the game has to offer in terms of combat and mechanic, but you utilized so little of what you earned throughout the whole game. Like, all of those abilities you worked so hard to unlock that made you just God mode, you didn't use, like, any of that. It was like the final confrontation was a lot of button mashing and some QTE, and you got to take some of your branded war chiefs with you into combat. But, really...
It really only lasts about 3 minutes in a little section. You fight a newly upgraded form of enemy, but then you wipe them out. So they're really just standard orcs with a little bit longer health bars. And they
hit harder, but other than that, that's pretty much it.
You go into the final fight, and depending on... if you like QTEs, then I think that, it might be something that you enjoy. Me, personally... I think QTEs are the bane of video game existence. I can't stand the little fuckers. So...
you're being frank, then I see. Okay.
Well, I figured that would be kind of my role, is to be frank about stuff. But I can't stand QTEs. I can't stand, walking sections, which was surprising because there were a couple forced walking sections in this game. And it was like... Yeah. Really out of place, and it's not that important, but having the final fight be nothing but a QTE sequence after you spent the last 25-30 hours, depending on your speed of the game, building up your character's repertoire in combat, and then be like, all that combat, you're not going to use any of it. Yeah, what you're going to do at the end of the game could be done the very first 12 seconds of the game, because it's just a QTE sequence, and at least left me really disenchanted with it, with the idea of going back. And it was the one thing that I felt was real, especially because, like I mentioned earlier, Monolith has been a company that I really respect and really love. And the greatest thing about Condemned was the last sequence. Anyone that's played it will tell you, the last 10 minutes of Condemned is some of the most well-designed, truly creepy and horrific 10 minutes in a video game, just because of the way it plays out. And they obviously know how to end the game, because how they ended Condemned was, I couldn't wait for the sequel. Condemned 2 is like, when it got announced, because of how Condemned 1 ended, I was so ready. Whereas Shadows of Mordor had the opposite effect, because of how they decided to end the game, it left me so disenchanted that I didn't want to do the extra content, and I can't say I'm looking forward to a sequel, even if it is by Monolith, because it left me on such a sour note. So.
See, and I agree with that too. Like when I was playing Shadows of Mordor, at no time really, even through the end, did I think, well, this was a bad experience.
No.
But by the end, it felt like, the gameplay was really good, but then it's like it sort of just dropped off there at the end, and it sort of just, I know what you mean, it sort of lets this sort of a very meh aftertaste as far as the gaming experience goes. And that's, not to say the game itself is bad, but it definitely did, because I'm sort of with you. It's like, before I had beat it, I saw that there was a bunch of DLC for it, and I was like, oh man, well, I'm really enjoying this game so far. Maybe after I beat it, I'll go back and play some of this DLC, when it goes on sale or whatever. But no, I know what you mean, though. I beat the game, watched the final cutscene, and it's just like, that was it. I have no interest on ever turning that on again. Which is sad, because, that really dings the game, because at least in my opinion, it has really no replay value. The only thing you can really do once you've beaten the game is just go back and find either artifacts you missed, or go and just continue to plunder through the ranks of Uruk-hai. But why at that point? There's no reason to anymore. The only reason you have to do that in the story is essentially build up an army, which is, again, a story-driven thing to, make the final confrontation. So once that final confrontation is done, there's no motive anymore. If you really like the Nemesis system, which it is cool, I'm not going to sit here and trash it. It is a pretty fun little gimmick, especially, and I know that you had a similar experience with me. As a gamer, it's like you experience a lot of things. You kill a lot of enemies. You get killed by a lot of enemies. But one thing that was really unique that I found that really got under my skin is when you get killed by an Uruk randomly, just some grunt guy. He gets promoted, and then next time you run into him, the first thing he does is talk shit at you. The first thing he does is just trash talk you and tear you down. It's like, whoa, who do you think you are, man? And then, of course, you make it your vendetta to kill him, and you do, and you're like, damn right, that's what you get for talking all smack, But then it happens again, and then you realize that, damn, every one of these guys is going to talk to me like I'm garbage every time they beat me in combat. And the thing that I hate, it's like, I wish almost that, I don't wish that you could talk smack to them, because I really feel like your character in that game, Talion, is sort of a generic, bland, not awesome
I was
character.
not taken with Talion.
Dark hair, stubble, outfit, nothing really, cool or memorable about him. And he has story, like I said, but his story isn't even the best story. It's like the best aspects of the story come from the wraith that possesses you, and unfortunately you never really get to play as the wraith. you sort of phase into it when you go into shadow mode or wraith mode.
Well, to be fair, the DLC, that's all it is.
Well, I'll never play the DLC, so I guess I missed that boat. I'm going to miss that boat, yeah. So replayability, none, I would say. Multiplayer, I don't think the game has any multiplayer at all.
The closest thing it has to multiplayer is the Nemesis system allows for vengeances to come through. So any Uruks that kill you, people on your friends list, not even just friends list, but anybody, it's like you can go and avenge them. Yeah. So it's not really multiplayer, but it does allow online elements into the game that could feature your friends, I guess. To me, it wasn't anything really necessary. By the point you actually unlock that stuff, if you play anything like me, your power is nearly maxed out anyways, and most of your stuff is already leveled up. So even though you get more experience for doing it later, since there was you could just keep killing and killing and killing. I had almost max skills outside of storyline ones in the first few hours of the game before I did any story quests. Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I had, but and that's not just the detriment of Shadows of Mordor. Any game that's open world like that, I will max my character out before I even start the story. It's almost a compulsion for me. So I would have done that anyway, regardless of the Shadows of Mordor or a Skyrim or Elder Scrolls. I don't play open world games. The only reason why I played Shadows of Mordor was to cover it for the first game for different beat. Generally, there are three things I hate in video games. Outside of specific little things, QTEs, force walking, but it's three big things will kill a game for me: first person views, open world, and if you have a character like Nathan Drake in it, fuck Nathan Drake. I can't stand that cut.
No. Okay. How dare you, first of all, provoke me on such a... I can't go... This not what... Uncharted is not what this video is about.
No, you're taking it there.
No, you took it there.
I just said the 3 things I can't stand.
But then you called out Nathan Drake, and I hope that most people out there watching this will agree with me that you are dead wrong. And you have no place to talk. You haven't even played 2 of those games.
I played 2 of the 4, though. I can make a comment.
Whatever. Alright, well, I think we've pretty much covered everything we really need to talk about Shadows of Mordor. Again, if you haven't played it and you can get your hands on a copy of it, it's not a bad game. You'll probably enjoy it. I mean, if you liked Assassin's Creed, which I didn't, and if you like Batman games, which I do, you'll find that's a nice cohesion of the two. It definitely borrows a ton from other games in terms of like how the gameplay works. But overall, not a bad game. I would say I'm glad I played it. Am I going to play it again? Probably not. What do you think?
I think it's a good game. I mean, I honestly... Would I go out of my way to buy it at full price? No. Do I want to see it do well? Yeah, I do. I want to see people play it. I think people will like it, especially if you like Assassin's Creed and Batman Arkham Asylum, or Origins and City. But mostly, I want to see it do well because I love Monolith as a developer. I really do. So I want to see their ventures do well, and I'm hoping one day to see a true Fear 3 from Monolith, and hopefully, even if they don't work in the Condemned universe again, do something first-person Melee, because they nailed it. And I really hope to see them continue to get good work from WB and maybe branch out and do their own IPs again.
All right, well, kudos to Monolith. Good job. You guys shined on this one. So, yeah, overall, I'm going to give Shadows of Mordor out of 5 stars 3... yeah, I'm going to say 3. I kind of want to say 3.5, but it's like, I can't quite go 3.5. I would replay a 3.5 game.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 3 out of 5 stars for Shadows of Mordor.
I would give it a 2.5, and that's not to say it's like a 5 out of 10, so please don't take it that way. I tend to be very, very stringent on scores. I've given 2 perfect scores my whole life, and I rarely give 4 out of 5. I like it to have an actual medium, so I give 2.5 stars to Mordor.
Okay, 2.5 and 3. So, yep, check it out, play it. So, thank you for tuning in. This is Different Beat. If you have feedback, please leave in the comment section below. If you want to subscribe and help support our new channel, please feel free. We would absolutely love it. We're going to be uploading videos every Sunday. And stay tuned for our next episode where we cover The Order 1886. All right?
Bye.
Thanks.